This is a big year for Marvel in theaters, and Captain Marvel is kicking it off. We're sure to get a plethora of new and old characters that will be a big part of the MCU for the next phase of their superhero films. However, if I may, I would like to throw out a suggestion of a character that they should absolutely not bring to life in the new franchise. This hero would be none other than 3D Man. That's right, three-dimensional man.
I don't get it.
A name and power that is incredibly pointless. Multi-dimensional spoilers lie ahead. Now, 3D Man is literally comprised of two brothers, Chuck and Hal Chandler. No, not those two brothers, Chuck and Hal Chandler. I don't know how this makes them more three-dimensional, but the most interesting part of 3D Man's development has nothing to do with the character himself, but with the medium in which it was being planned to be distributed through. At the time, Roy Thomas not only wanted to make an homage to Jack Kirby and Joe Simon's Captain 3D, but he also wanted to print the image to be viewed in stereoscopic 3D, which at the time was a major development in viewing 2D images with a stereoscope to create the illusion of depth, and therefore three-dimensional images. Pretty neat, huh? At face value, this is like if you brought Harry Potter newspapers to the 1950s. Alas, budget is always the issue in Hollywood, and they cut the expensive idea for execution. And there are clearly a number of visual elements throughout his mini-run that were left in and meant to be utilized with stereoscopic 3D. Perhaps Marvel executives balking at his original form of communication is the reason he doesn't appear in Marvel Comics again for many, many years. But enough about seeing 3D Man in actual 3D. You didn't get to. You saw him in 2D. Let's talk about Chuck and Hal, who were born in beautiful Los Angeles, California. Chuck is a test pilot for NASA, and Hal is his polio-crippled younger brother who was a scientific researcher. Very different people. Chuck is captured one day by Skrull invaders during a flight. He escapes after they try to interrogate him. Give us all your answers about Earth. No. And he damages their ship on his way out. It explodes as he flies away, and he is exposed to toxic radiation in the blast aftermath. No, Chuck.
Mendoza!
Upon landing, Hal comes to his side, trying to rescue him, but Chuck disappears, almost in like a Thanos snap-your-finger style. However, he doesn't disappear. Instead, he becomes imprinted on Hal's glasses for some reason or another, and that's the beginning of where it gets kinda weird. From this point onward, Chuck had become a two-dimensional man, forever living in a weird, separate dimension that is only in his brother's glasses. That I can't explain, but when Hal concentrates hard enough, his brother Chuck would come back in regular old 3D form, but with triple his strength, speed, and durability. 3 times the dimension, 3 times the strength. However, Hal just kind of became a remote controller when this happened. They had a telepathic link, so Hal would go into an idle state of sorts as 3D Man saved the world. Chuck and Hal, would go on to fight as 3D Man against their enemies, the Skrulls, for many battles. There was even a time where 3D Man donned a new personality later down the line. But for the most part, 3D Man was comprised of the Chandler brothers. And that's about where his story ends.
I still don't get it.
Beyond 3D Man's innovative development, there isn't much about him that is dynamic or, well, plain interesting. He's a human that isn't flat. He's a regular old person, and that's about it. And arguably, the character is either offensive or endearing, whichever way you look at this power being a conduit to either, well, put Hal at the forefront of being a superhero, or make him the secondary option and the less important one in this dynamic.
I don't like that.
With all of 3D Man's lackluster characteristics and uninspiring career, it's safe to say he is one Marvel character that should not make it onto the big screen. But what do you think? Am I completely f***ing wrong? Is 3D Man an incredibly interesting character that would whoop Captain Marvel's ass? Is there another super weird Marvel character that doesn't deserve the limelight as much as 3D Man doesn't? Let us know in the comments, like this video, and subscribe to Gamma Ray.